Good morning, and welcome to the first episode of Tracking. Taylor Majors here for Andrus Engineering Associates, Trapmobile dealer for the southeastern United States. This morning we've got our September rail industry update, and we're going to jump right into it. Another month, another set of mixed signals. The number of ex-coal rail car loads moved in September was the lowest year-over-year gain that we've seen since the numbers started turning positive in December of 2020. In September 2021, ex-coal car loads averaged 165,359 cars per week. One thing to consider about that, in absolute terms, loadings have remained fairly steady, with June through August all between 162 to 168,000 rail car loadings per week. September at 165,000 is right in the middle of that range, but the acceleration has clearly fallen off. After seeing steadily increasing loadings in the first half of the year, we've seen these numbers really kind of steady out here over the last several months. So far this year, total X-car loadings are up 6.4% over the same time in 2020. As Delta variant cases have declined in recent weeks, we'll have to wait and see if the acceleration restarts or if supply chain bottlenecks, clogged ports, and everything else that we're hearing in the news continues to plague logistics and freight. Speaking of clogged ports, we turn to the intermodal sector now. We're all seeing reports about port congestion and ships waiting to unload cargo. A recent CNBC article cited approximately 60 ships currently waiting off the port of Long Beach for a dock to unload. To give a reference, before the pandemic, it was unusual to see even one ship waiting for a slip. Other ports around the country are experiencing similar bottlenecks. To add to it, many ports are citing a shortage of trucks when they do unload materials. The rail industry is looking to capitalize on these shortages, but we're facing many issues of our own. Intermodal car loadings were off 6.7% from September 2020 and September 21. So how can we possibly have backed up ports and be facing less rail car loadings than last year? Well, there are many factors that are affecting the rail supply chain congestion. Many experts don't expect them to be fixed anytime soon. According to a Trains.com article from August 2021, both BNSF and Union Pacific railroads have experienced congestion at many inland port terminals. Further, the intermodal industry is experiencing a shortage of intermodal chassis. U.S. manufacturers are currently ramping up chassis production, but still remain below replacement levels. And these are just some industry-specific issues. Further issues like labor shortages and material shortages, the latter, at least partially a result of the same shipping delays, are causing capacity restraints for shipping and manufacturing. In other words, don't expect the delays to get better. In fact, they're likely to get worse, at least in the immediate future. Reports have already started coming out about buying Christmas presents early and fears of empty shelves come December. We've talked about the broader rail economy this morning. Now let's look at a few commodity-specific sectors. Coal. Coal's been in decline for the last 10 years as power plants have switched largely over to natural gas and other forms of energy production. But as energy costs have risen dramatically in 2021, coal has had a bit of a renaissance. Year to date, coal car loads are up 11.9% over this point in 2020. Now, while they're nowhere near their highs of 2012 and 2013, this has been a significant change from where we were even just as recently as a year ago. Whether or not this resurgence in coal is here to stay, we can't say. But as for a cause, look no further than a chart of natural gas. Right now, the price of natural gas is just above $5 per million BTUs. It's hit recent highs of as high as 6 and has basically doubled this year. Looking at a 20-year chart going back all the way to 1998, you can see that the average price for really all about the 2010s, since the shale revolution and prices have fallen off, has averaged somewhere in the $3.50 range. Compare that to what has essentially been a double, and prices that are multiples higher, as much as $25 per million BTUs in Europe right now, and it's no wonder why we have coal increasing its loadings. Sticking with the energy theme, the commodity category that had the biggest win in September after coal was crushed stone, sand, and gravel, regularly used in the fracking industry. Carloads of which were up 12.5%, or just over 11,000 carloads in September. That makes their fifth straight monthly increase and follows 32 straight monthly year-over-year declines. So far year to date, total carloads of crushed sandstone and gravel are still down 1% from last year as we try and make up from the lows of this month. But if energy prices stay where they are, you can expect that pumping and drilling are only going to increase, leading to more demand for these commodities. If you've been a follower of our rail reports, then you've seen that grain has been a star over the last year. But in the last few months, it's seen that star dim. In September 2021, grain carloads were down 14.7% over the same time a year ago. This largely has more to do with exporting than it does with U.S. grain consumption. As grain is largely made up of corn and soybeans, large amounts of both were being exported and purchased by the rest of the world during the heights of the pandemic. As that's dropped off, the amount of carloads of grain has dropped off significantly. This can be seen as evidently in the number of carloads that are moving to ports for export to Mexico. In Q3 of 2021, the number of carloads moving to ports was 40% lower than it was in Q2 and 50% lower than it was in Q1 of 2021. Moving on to the metals, U.S. carloads of primary metal products were 22.4% higher in September 2021 than they were in September 20. That's their sixth consecutive month of increases of more than 20%. In Q3 of 2021, carloads were up 27.5% over last year, and in Q2 2021, they were up 51.7%. According to Federal Reserve data, U.S. iron and steel output in August 2021, the most recent month available, was the highest since February 2019. For the past several months, output has been up over more than 40% over last year. Along with new metal, iron and steel scrap were much the same in September, with new loads of iron and steel scrap being up 15.1% in September in the U.S. Thank you for joining us for episode 1 of Tracking. This has been part 1 of our September Rail Report. Stay tuned for part 2 when we'll focus on the broader economy. For all your trackmobile needs, contact Andrus Engineering or visit andrusengineering.com. And until then, keep it on the rails.